Okay guys, so tools list. You're gonna need a 24 millimeter socket, a 17 millimeter socket, a 10 millimeter socket. You're gonna need at least one 2-inch extension and probably one 3-inch extension. You're gonna need a socket wrench. You're gonna need a panel puller tool, or you could use a flathead. But if you use a flathead, make sure it's thin and sharp, so that way you could pull the rivets off the bottom of the car to pop the panels off. You're also gonna need oil, 0W20 or 0W30. The book calls for 6 quarts. I only used 5. That's all that would take for it to show up correctly on the dipstick. The part number for the filter, I used a Wix filter. I would suggest a Wix, your call. Part number is P as in Peter, X as in X-ray, L as in Lima, 10473. All right, guys, hopefully you enjoy this one. It's a combination of complaining and an oil change on a 2024 Hyundai Santa Fe.
Well, developed by morons continues. So this is the pinch weld right here. It's where you could do a jack point, but if you notice, it's very short, so you can't put jack stands in place. Now we do have mounts, and I'm assuming I could probably jack the car up from, which is right here. So hopefully the cup fits in there so I could actually jack the vehicle up. So that way I could do an oil change, because I can't fit under this disaster. So you may be asking, why don't you just use ramps? Well, because of the all-wheel drive system in this thing, even with the center locking, can't creep up a hill. So as a result, what happens is you got to punch it, and there's such a delay in the throttle that by the time you do that, you're basically going to launch yourself off the end of the ramps. So that's out. So now we got to figure out how we're going to get this thing up enough so we can do an oil change. All right, so that is the drain flap for where we're going to have our oil filter, and that is the drain flap for where the plug is going to be. So right now this is the passenger's front wheel. So let's pop these cheap panel rivets off with our spudger tool, and let's do the same for this one and expose what we're going to work with here, and hopefully we can do it without jacking the car up, since there's no place to put a jack stand on this thing. Okay guys, so panel removal tool was the win. There's the oil filter housing. You'll notice that here is where they added that drain plug to the Santa Fe filter. So we should be able to put something on the end of there. There's probably a little hose that we could put on there and the end of there to actually drain this so it doesn't get all over the place. That should be 1 1/16. We'll check, but that's what that size should be on the actual socket to get that off. I may not take that out and just do that. I have a tendency of having problems, at least in the Toyota vehicles, where if you start removing the center point, whatever nylon thing that they used to put in there, that it would wallow out the housing, and you have to replace the housing every couple of oil changes, which is not something you want to do here. So let's see if we could get this off of here at some point. But first, we're going to try to remove the secondary cover so we could get to where the oil plug is. Again, we're not jacked up, and I'm not 20 anymore, so this is fun. Okay guys, so I'm sorry if this is bouncy. We have 2 bolts. We have one here on the corner. I can't really get my hand under there like that, but there's one over here on the corner. There's another one in the back corner, kind of, see if I can get my hand there, like beyond the last little pull point. There's another one there. Those are both 10 millimeters. So we're gonna use a 10 millimeter socket to get this panel off, see what it looks like underneath here. Okay, so if you're curious what this looks like, there is the cover for the oil filter, and there is the cover for the oil drain plug. So you'll see that you have a little lip that goes underneath the other panel, and then you have 2 10 millimeter bolts, and then you're going to have your 2 pull pins, and there's the 3 there. Again, the best tool to get this off, at least what I found, was a panel pulling tool made out of steel, which was shown in the picture, so hopefully you guys have
could see what that looks like. I just got mine at Harbor Freight Tools. So at any rate, let's continue on this fun path process.
All right, guys, so now we got the drain plug, which is right here. That should be a 17 millimeter. So let's grab a 17 millimeter, let's crack that plug open, let's drain the oil out of this thing.
Okay guys, so the next thing you're going to want to do here is you're going to pop the hybrid cover, or the engine cover here. So there's just 3 connectors on this, and then we'll yank this thing off. So this must be a factory edition. This is what I'm going to call Alabama build quality. I mean, honestly, who the hell leaves a rubber band behind in an engine bay? This just seems like, good job. So we have our oil dipstick. We have our oil filler cap. You'll see on the top it says 0W20. Now the older versions of this, like the 2023 and prior, use 0W30. If you're in a really, really hot climate and you want to use 0W30, go for it. If you're in a colder climate, you want to use 020, that's fine. If it's easier to get 30 than it is to get 20, or less expensive, you should be fine running either one. Now with that said, once you have those 2 things popped and you have that drain plug at the bottom leaking, eventually it'll drain out. We'll put that plug back on there. Now you could replace the crush washer if you want. If you don't, then that's fine too. Some people tell you that you should do it. I've had cars go, 600,000 miles without replacing it once, and they sweat after some time, so maybe replace them. Usually I replace them with copper versus the aluminum ones that they come with, but that's up to you, your discretion. If you have weeping, then obviously replace it. If not, don't worry about it. Okay guys, so I wouldn't usually do this. Obviously you can see I'm destroying a cloth here, but I want to show you how to get this filter out of the housing. So you're going to see a pull pin. It's going to exist right here. Now originally I thought this was perhaps a drain thing of some kind to, drain the oil so that way it didn't get a mess. It's not. It's a pull pin, and you pull this out. When you pull this out, it releases the filter housing. Now in an oil change, you could twist this, which breaks it off the filter, and when that happens, the oil will come out of the actual filter. So let's take a look real quick at the new filter so that you can see the comparison between the two. So I'm trying to do this one-handed with a phone in my hand, so I apologize for this. But if you need it, here's the actual part number, and this is a Wix filter. Let's see right here, ProTech Wix. There's the actual part number. So the housing, you could see right here, that's the hole where that pull pin goes through. And you can see if it was in the filter, if you twist this off, then it would allow the filter housing itself, the filter assembly, to drain. So that's how this works. Okay, so we got the old filter out. Now this is a brand new car with 3,000 miles on it. So let's take a look here to see if we have any metal in the filter. Now this filter is really tight. So my guess is that we'll probably have a little bit, like there's a little bit there. I don't see a ton. I don't see too much that should be metallic. I don't see anything in here that would show if we have any excessive wear. Now, I will say that the reason why this has 3,000 and not 5,000 is because it's October and I really don't want to be under this thing in December. It's just cold, so I planned it to do the oil change at 3,000 versus 5,000. Now, based on the color of the oil, I would say 5,000 is fine if you do the majority of your driving on the highway. If you do a lot of stop and go in town, I would still do 3,000. I don't care what Hyundai says. 10,000 mile oil changes too far spread apart, especially on this engine. You got to understand with a hybrid, it's stop and go constantly. Even if you're not in traffic, it's stop and go because the engine's constantly turning on and off. So don't listen to the book if you want something to last more than 5 years. And if you believe that 100,000 mile warranty is going to cover you for this, you're high. So let's get this filter now into the vehicle and let's add some oil. Oh, and just so
I don't forget to say it, so that way people don't bark at me in the comments. Don't forget to change this O-ring. There's one that comes in the package. There's a new crush washer in here as well for your drain plug, and then there's also the push pin for the assembly. I'm just going to reuse mine. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But yeah, I will replace this, and I'll hold on to the other stuff for the next oil change, so that way if I don't get it in the next one, I have it. But for the time being, there's no reason to replace anything that's still good. So let's get this put back together. Hey guys, so post oil change analysis. I followed the book. The guideline says 6.16 quarts. I put in 6 quarts and it filled the oil to somewhere around here. So the book is wrong, because either the book is wrong or the dipstick is wrong. Either way, that's a problem. All right guys, so I don't know if you can see that, but now we're right at the full mark on the actual dipstick. I ended up pulling an entire quart out of this thing. So that whole website where they indicate that this thing's supposed to, and I mean website as in Hyundai, indicates this thing's supposed to take 6 quarts. There wasn't anything draining out of this thing at the point that I put the plug back in it and filled it with oil, so that's not right. So I would say that this probably takes closer to 5 quarts, and I would suggest you put 4.5 quarts in this thing, and then chuck the dipstick before you put the additional half quart in it. Maybe crank it over and let it run for a few minutes to circulate the oil. Check the oil again, and then add the additional half quart. So just to make sure that you're not, housing everything and it's not rotating in the filter. So I did start it, and it did run through the cycle. If you don't know how to do that, when you hit the power button to start the hybrid, just stab the throttle and it'll start the gas engine, put it in a cycle mode, so that way you could, spin the oil into the engine. So that concludes the oil change on this fun thing. It'd be good to have this video as reference for next year when I have to go through this fun again. I will show you how to reset the oil light, and then I'll end this video. Okay guys, so what you're going to do is you're going to go to setup, then you're going to go to vehicle, then you're going to go to convenience, and then you're going to see here oil change reminder, reset, and then yes, and then that's it. It resets the oil life interval. So that's how you do this in a 2024 or 2025, and I'm sure the 2026 as well, Hyundai Santa Fe.